Virginia for 60 years.
Well, this is the scene around our area tonight. So the snow expected to stop in the next hour or so. But tonight we are keeping you up to date with exactly what is happening as we take a live look tonight from Lynchburg to Danville to Roanoke. We've got you covered. 13 News at 5 starts right now.
Anytime, anywhere. Award-winning coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for watching 13 News at 5 o'clock tonight. Winter weather is here. I don't have to tell you. Tonight, team coverage of the second snowstorm of 2013. Sean Sublett's in the Weather Center tracking the storm. James Girardi is live in Lynchburg with a check of our road conditions. David Tate has a check of the conditions in Roanoke, and Heather Rosenbaum talked with emergency crews whose calls really go up on nights just like this. Sean, straight to you first for the very latest on the forecast.
Hey, Dana, the big thing I can tell you is that the accumulating precipitation is finished. There will still be a few snow flurries out there and a few pockets of freezing drizzle, but anything additional is really done for the night. Several photos, as you might imagine, have come into us here from the heart of Virginia. Jelani Brooks sent this one in, traveling along Highway 29 in Campbell County a little bit earlier on. That was kind of the repeated theme through much of our part of this state. You see the tire tracks in the highway from the snowfall on either side of them. And it's still quite cold as expected, kind of the powdery snow out there with the low moisture content, the low temperatures, and there's a little breeze. Wind chill right now 11 outside into Lynchburg. Again, there'll be a few flurries or little pockets of freezing drizzle through this evening, but you can see all the blues there shifting farther to the east, meaning this thing is about 98% finished with. A few passing flurries, no more accumulation, a little freezing drizzle with temperatures hovering near 20 degrees. We do look at a drier weekend forecast coming up in a few minutes. Dana.
All right, thank you, Sean. Now let's head outside to our James Girardi. He's out in the middle of this mess in Lynchburg. And James, how are the road conditions where you are right now?
Well, Danner, as you know, where there's snow, there are slick streets, and that's certainly the case out here. I'm at the intersection of Old Forest Road and Lakeside Drive. As you can see, a little bit of accumulation out on the roads right now, but not too bad. VDOT and Public Works, I just saw a couple of trucks drive by. They did a pretty good job of putting out chemicals before the snow started coming down, so not too much out there to show right now. But there were some cars encountering some trouble earlier in the day. Take a look at some of this video that we shot from Hill Street Road in Lynchburg. Some cars, they didn't fare so well, sliding all over the place, even a school bus. This was all around 2:30 in the afternoon when conditions were much worse. Things thankfully looking a little bit better right now, but VDOT officials are cautioning everyone, take it easy out there, especially going into tonight when temperatures are going to drop and these slick streets, they could turn to icy ones.
It's possible we could get a little bit more snow or possibly even a little bit of freezing drizzle even in the Lynchburg area. And we have gotten some to the south of us. So conditions are likely to deteriorate tonight because it's going to be colder and any moisture that is on the ground is going to freeze.
That's very good advice. I'm going to have much more on road conditions coming up tonight at 5:30 and 6. But for now, let's go live to Rachel Scher. She's outside of our Lynchburg studio with more on how schools dealt with this snow today. Rachel?
Hey James, as you can imagine, there was a lot of excitement when Lynchburg City Schools announced they would be closing 2 hours early. We stopped by Deerington Elementary for Innovation earlier this afternoon. You can see buses and parents lined up outside to pick up the school kids around 1:30 for the early dismissal. It was pretty much the same scene throughout schools in our area. There were some snow dances and a lot of kids looking forward to some sledding, but bus drivers say their main concern was with the other drivers out on the roads.
It's a treacherous day, and so you have to really watch out for the other drivers out there as well. Not a lot of people drive well in snow.
Good advice. Speaking of those roads, this is what it looks like right outside our studio on Langhorne Road. As a reminder to parents, because of these slick conditions, all after-school activities are canceled here in Lynchburg, except for the YMCA after-school programs. Those will go on as usual. And Martinsville High School has announced that the SATs that were scheduled for tomorrow there have been moved to February 16th. Coming up tonight on the news at 6, hear how Liberty University handled the snow we had today. But first, let's head over to our David Tate, who's live in Roanoke. Dave, how are things over there?
Yeah, hey Rachel, if you take a look behind me on 581, things are looking pretty good, and this is pretty much indicative of all the primary roads here around the area. It's when you get out on the secondary roads that things are a little bit more treacherous. But then if you head out west toward Montgomery County, things out there are definitely more precarious. Here are some shots from the Virginia Tech campus earlier this afternoon. At this point in the day, the snow had already been falling just a couple of hours, and you could see already several inches of accumulation. And the danger that comes with this type of weather really became apparent on the interstate. Here you can see a vehicle that was towing another car that had spun out of control, narrowly avoiding being hit as they pull back out into traffic. Now, I did check in with some folks traveling through the storm on ideas as to how to get to handle this stuff if you have to get out.
Take it easy. Don't touch your brakes. Don't do anything silly. Don't accelerate too quickly. Don't change direction too rapidly. It's just taking it easy.
Yeah, with that said, we're here at the Roanoke Civic Center where tonight the Zach Brown Band is expected to take the stage here very soon. As you can see, the weather's doing fine, so if you are coming out, the show is still on, so don't worry about that. But keep in mind that the Roanoke Civic Center is now doing prepaid parking in the Roanoke Civic Center parking lot, so if you have not gotten a parking pass, you're going to need to park in the Williamson Road parking garage. Back to you, Dana.
All right, thank you. David Tate live in Roanoke. There is a look at everywhere across our region. And new at 5, an accident at Walgreens in Forest sends a woman to the hospital. We're hearing a lot of these accidents. State police tell us a 32-year-old woman was using this red box at the store on Route 221 when she was hit by a truck. They tell us the truck accidentally went forward instead of in reverse and pinned her for a short time. They say that woman was conscious the entire time. She has been taken to the hospital. Officials don't believe those injuries are going to be life-threatening. No word on charges just yet. Well, Southside emergency responders are expecting a lot of calls, and they say they are ready for whatever happens tonight. Heather Rosenbaum is live from outside our Danville studio this evening. And Heather, tell us first what the conditions are like right there right now.
Danner, it actually started snowing around 10 this morning, but as you can see, it has stopped. But come take a look at this. Our parking lot is covered in a thick layer of ice. It really looks more like an ice rink out here than it does a parking lot. Just even look at this car. You can see that there's a thick layer of ice on the car. It is really slippery, but emergency crews, they are concerned about the roads, especially right now during rush hour.
We want to keep everybody safe.
Members of the Danville Life-Saving Crew have spent the day checking their trucks, staffing their volunteers, and keeping a close eye on the weather.
Today we've got about 8 people working throughout the day, and tonight we'll have extra people working as well.
Plus, they always have people on call and 4-wheel drive ambulances on standby. Still, they hope accidents like this don't happen too frequently. This car slid into a transformer on River Oak Drive. Even a Danville fire truck slipped while coming to its rescue.
When I backed up and stopped and thought the truck was going to sit still and it started sliding, that's a weird feeling.
At Pittsylvania County Dispatch, their phones haven't stopped ringing.
The moment that the travel picks up on the highways, that's when we start seeing the calls start to pick up here, because that's when incidents happen.
When road conditions look like this, they expect to be busy, but sometimes their lines can get backed up with non-emergency calls, like asking for road conditions. That is not what 911 is for.
If someone's life, it's needing fire, police, or EMS, I mean, without a question, you dial 911.
No matter the weather, Southside crews say they will be there, ready to help during any emergency.
We'll be ready today. Hopefully we won't have many, but if it does, we'll be there and we'll get them taken care of.
Now, hopefully there won't be an accident, but to prevent them, the best thing to do is to give a lot of distance between you and the car in front of you. Do not slam on your brakes, and if you can, just stay at home, keep yourself warm, and do not go out if possible. Reporting live in Danville, Heather Rosenbaum, ABC 13 News.
I tell you what, on a night like tonight, Friday night, that is a great idea. Lock the doors, spend some time with the family, stay nice and warm, keep off the streets. All right, log on to WSET.com to vote in tonight's web poll. We want to know, what is your favorite wintertime leisure activity? Basketball games, maybe Bible study, or cooking, or skiing. Lots of choices for you on this one tonight. Head there and vote at WSET.com. Then watch for the results tonight on 13 News at 11. I like to sit by the fire. All right, of course, we have the latest information at WSET.com as well while you're there. We have closings, delays, updated weather forecasts, and all of the stories that you're seeing right here on the air. We also want you to send us your eyewitness pictures of the snow that's happening in your area. Maybe you're bundling up the kids, headed out to sled tonight. Send us those pictures. We would love to see them.
ABC 13 News, coverage you can count on.
Many in Roanoke are cleaning up after getting 4 inches of rain in less than an hour. Streets flooded, homes and cars are underwater.
It definitely shocked me. I mean, I didn't think it could ever actually flood over here that fast.
More rain today means more chances of flooding.
It was unbelievable. You can't really imagine how water can add up that quickly.
Tonight, a look at the continuing danger, plus hear from residents caught off guard by the surprise water surge. 13 News at 5 starts right now.
Anytime, anywhere. Award-winning coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News.
Thanks for watching 13 News at 5 tonight. I'm Patty Martin in for Danner Evans. Well, our team coverage of the major flooding in Roanoke tops our news this half hour. We have Lindsay Topassis keeping track of the latest batch of storms in the Weather Center. Angela Hatcher and David Tate are both live in Roanoke. And Carly Griffith is live in Lynchburg with more on water quality right now. Lindsay, let's go straight to you first thing. More rain, more flooding tonight. We just can't seem to get out of this pattern.
Yeah, that's right, Patty. Although we don't have a whole lot of showers out there, the ones that we do have out there are moving just so slowly. This is an hour loop of the radar, and you can see that the radar looks almost identical right now at this time to as it did 1 hour ago. So there's very little steering wind to actually move these storms along. So as a result, they're moving very slowly, if at all. And in addition to that, where they are coming down, they're putting down those tropical downpours and very high rainfall rates. So some of the areas, again, that really have just seen this dousing. And if you're under one of these showers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Northern parts of Smith Mountain Lake, out towards central sections of Appomattox, out towards the Gretna area are under some of those showers and storms right now, and out towards parts of the New River Valley in and around Patrick County. It's been very wet for you. Some of those showers finally starting to move east into the Martinsville area, parts of Henry County, and in and around Galax. We've had some reports of some minor flooding. Now we are going to send it right now out to Angela Hatcher. She's live in Roanoke at a daycare that had to be evacuated. Angela, the kids were handed one by one into a rescue boat.
Yeah, Lindsay, and I talked with members of that Swiftwater rescue team today, and they tell me that things couldn't have gone any better out here on Peters Creek Road. This is the Rainbow Christian Learning Center. That little school behind me was getting pounded around this time yesterday. There was water coming in from the front and from the back. Those firefighters tell me that the staff out here did a great job of getting the kids out of the building, into their life jackets, and into that boat. It wasn't an ark, and the children were loaded in groups of 4 or 5, not 2 by 2, at the daycare named Rainbow.
It just started raining really quickly.
Owner Sheila Anderson was inside with 18 little children. She and 2 of her employees knew they had to keep everyone calm.
You know, we would read into them and sing, and, you know, they didn't have no idea, you know, what was going on outside.
Outside, the water was up to the front door. Firefighters with the Roanoke City Swiftwater Rescue Team were there with a boat. Team leader Lieutenant Mark Brown looked like the Noah they'd hoped for.
The daycare, the personnel there had it very organized for us. They did have the kids up. The kids were awesome.
That boat would make 7 trips before all the kids were out. Sheila's husband John was waiting on dry land to drive them home, but not in their usual bus. It was underwater in the parking lot. The usual route also not an option.
I thought I could get them one way, then I had to go another route. I said, "Thank you, Jesus." And I felt such a relief once I got that last child home.
The typically hour-long trip took 2.5. An afternoon of rain sure did seem like 40 days and 40 nights. Sheila's only concern, keeping a promise to families that their children would be safe under this rainbow.
That's why we picked that name, because, you know, he promised that in difficult times that he would take care of us. And
now, in addition to doing the cleanup out here today, the Andersons were busy meeting with an insurance adjuster, and they're also trying to help all of the families find new daycare centers for the 27 children who are displaced because of this flood. Now we're going to send it over to Dave Tate, who is live in our Roanoke studio. And Dave, I know you went out today looking at all of those cars and houses that were flooded.
Yeah, I did, Angela, and things are definitely better looking here than they were last night. Most of the water has receded, and the more visible signs of the flood, for the most part, are now gone. If you take a look at this video from the intersection of Wells and Williamson in downtown that was flooded up until about midnight last night, much of the mess is already cleaned up here by the morning rush hour, and traffic is moving along pretty well, except for the fact that the traffic lights are still out there, so be careful in that area. The residual story, though, of this is this type of stuff. It's this mud. Anywhere the floodwaters were, this thick, stinking mud was left behind, so cars, homes, and businesses here all covered, leaving people with a lot of cleaning up to do.
We didn't get a lot of water in the store. We got maybe an inch on the floor, so mostly just dirty floors. Nothing major, no big problems like some people.
Yeah, as for the streets themselves, looks like just about everything is back open here in Roanoke. I did visit various trouble spots around the area where debris had built up or where there were reports of sinkholes. Everything I saw from the city's point of view was taken care of relatively quickly. I'll have more on the cleanup side of things tonight on 13 News at 6. So before then, let's send it off to Carly Griffith, who's live in Lynchburg tonight with more on why you should avoid swimming and getting into floodwaters. Carly?
Yeah, Dave, and I hope you're staying safe out there because those floodwaters can carry some major health risks. At this point, you have to assume that the water is contaminated with sewage from sewer lines, septic tanks, or drain fields. The Lynchburg Health Department says if you're exposed to that kind of contamination, you could get things like hepatitis, salmonella, or even E. coli. They say if you can, avoid floodwaters completely, but if you can't, here are some tips to avoid getting sick.
If for some reason you have to wade through it or get into it, the first thing you need to do is bathe with soap and water. Wash it all off. Because if you've got any sores or open wounds or anything like that, they can get contaminated and cause you a lot of problems too. You certainly don't want to get any of it in your mouth. And anything that's been in contact with floodwaters, any food items or food prep items like your pots and pans and stuff like that, if they're contaminated by floodwaters, they really need to be washed and sanitized before you use them.
And the health department says if you use a private well system, your water supply may be contaminated as well. We have tips to clean your well water at our website, WSET.com. Live in Lynchburg, Carly Griffith, ABC 13 News.
And WSET.com has all the latest information for you, from pictures to the forecast to which areas are under a watch or a warning. Of course, we'd love to see what you're seeing, so if you can safely send us pictures of flooding or rain in your area, please do so. And Lindsay joins us now again to talk about the record numbers that we are seeing this month. Lindsay, Roanoke has gotten the most rain this month it has ever been recorded in the city's history, and I think it's not hard to believe, a lot of folks there would say.
Yeah, always important to remember when we talk about record type of events that it's since records have been kept. Obviously, we don't know what happened before the records were kept, but records in Roanoke go back to 1912. So we're talking about within the past 100 years. The previous record was just over 10 inches set in 1989, and this is the total rainfall for the month of July. As of yesterday, they already surpassed that, 10.32 inches, and almost 4 inches of that came yesterday alone. Now, this won't officially go into the record books until the month ends, but it is safe to say that, again, in Roanoke, they have surpassed that. As far as how we're doing for the year, again, this is the almanac for rain that we have seen since January 1st. So all areas are running at a surplus between 6 and 15 inches, but you can clearly see that Roanoke is the lead winner there by far at all of our climate sites. Roanoke has certainly surpassed that rain, although it's been wet at the other areas, not quite as wet. Haven't seen as much flooding there, of course.
A very strange July so far.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Coverage of the weather coming up tonight at 5.
We are keeping an eye on the radar as the flash flood watch stays in effect until tomorrow morning.
Scrambling to adjust to the weather, we are live with what several vendors have to do to adjust to the weather this weekend. Crews saved several stranded people from flooding early this morning. A look at the rescue.
Rising water can leave you trapped. What you need to do to get to safety. 13 News at 5 starts right now.
Anytime, anywhere. Award-winning coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News.
Evening, everyone. Thanks for watching 13 News at 5 o'clock. Learning a lot of lessons. And we've learned that these recent storms flooding can happen very quickly, in an instant. And we want to make sure that you know what to do if you get stuck in the middle of it. Claudia Rupsich put some tips together for us. She's live in our Lynchburg newsroom with more. Claudia.
Tanner, there are important things we should all do and not do in the middle of a flood. Here are some tips to help you keep safe and your home safe. First of all, make sure you listen to your local TV or radio news so you know what's going on and you can prepare. If there's a possibility of a flash flooding, find higher ground immediately. If officials call for an evacuation, try to do the following if you have the time. Bring outdoor furniture inside and move important things to an upper floor. You should also turn off utilities and the main switches and disconnect electrical appliances. Officials ask that you please stay inside during a flood. But if you have to be outside or leave your home, remember this: never walk through moving water. 6 inches of it is strong enough to make you fall. Also, do not drive into flooded areas, even if you think your car can make it. The depth of the water isn't always obvious, and it doesn't take a lot for you to get stranded or trapped. So if there's a barricade, look for another route. And if there are none, park your car at higher ground and wait for it to clear up. Now, all these tips are on our website. We also have a lot more things that you need to look for to do before, during, and after a flooding. That's all on WSET.com. Tanner?
All right, thank you, Claudia. An update also tonight on the roads in Roanoke this evening from all that flooding earlier this week. The signal lights are now working at Orange Avenue and Gainsborough Road. Same story at Hirschberger Road and Westside Boulevard. But not everywhere is back up and running yet. The signal light at Wells Avenue, Williamson Road, and Kimball Avenue are still out. Don't forget, you got to treat those as four-way stops. Crews are out there trying to get it fixed as soon as possible. Well, those of you in Keysville are still under a boil water advisory after an equipment failure yesterday. The town has low water pressure too. Crews at the water plant are continuing to work on the problem, and we're going to keep you updated as soon as we get more information on that situation.
Virginia.
It's never easy for two sides to reach consensus.
The Senate reaches a deal to end the government shutdown and raise the debt ceiling, this with just hours until that looming deadline.
There are no winners here. The American people have paid a price for this.
All day, protesters demanded action.
We're just frustrated that nothing's been happening, and the country deserves better.
Tonight, we have all the latest details from Washington. 13 News at 5 starts right now.
Anytime, anywhere. Award-winning coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight at 5. We have some big news out of Washington for you. This continuing coverage of the government shutdown. After 16 days of that government being shut down and the government close to a borrowing limit, Congress has reached a bipartisan deal. Senate leaders Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell announced today a plan that would reopen the government and avoid a default. Karen Travers is live from Capitol Hill on this developing story.
Good evening. There is relief here on Capitol Hill.
The Nelson County Sheriff's Office is asking for hunters all across the state to help bring Alexis Murphy home. The lead investigator met with members of the media today, asking them to keep their eyes open for anything that really just looks out of the ordinary. Rachel Scher is live in Livingston from the Sheriff's Office.
Danner, Nelson County is made up of roughly 500 square miles. Many of it is very rugged, very mountainous terrain. So the Sheriff's Office figured they could cover a lot more ground with the help of hunters than just their handful of volunteers. Now, Alexis Murphy disappeared on August 3rd at the Liberty gas station. She was wearing a pair of leopard print capris, a purple long sleeve shirt, and brown boots. Investigators are asking hunters keep an eye out for pieces of clothing that may match that description or anything that seems out of the ordinary. Now, if you do stumble across anything unusual, don't touch it. Call the Sheriff's Office. It is a potential crime scene.
With the hunting season, they're going to be in areas that we probably hadn't even looked or even thought about going into. Primarily why we're reaching out to the news agencies is to let everyone know, not just in Nelson County, but all the surrounding jurisdictions as well, and actually statewide.
Now, investigator Mays there said there have been several instances where hunters have actually stumbled across key pieces of evidence. They're obviously hoping that's the case here.
Lindsay, Bedford County investigators did not look at a tractor wagon involved in a hayride crash prior to the season opening of Lehman Family Farms because it was not required. Angela Hatcher has more on this continuing story tonight.
Danner, I talked with a building official in Bedford County today, and he does tell me that inspectors were at the farm on October 1st, 10 days before that rollover crash Friday night, but they only inspected the amusement devices, specifically the slide and the jumping pillow. Tractors and wagons, they don't have to be inspected because they all fall under a farm exemption. Now, Eric Lehman, the farm's owner, tells me he checked the tractor prior to opening. He has pulled that tractor out of his fleet after this accident and says his mechanic determined a spring broke, causing the tractor to not stay in park. Now, this is video from Saturday when thousands turned out at the farm despite what happened there the night before. The tractors used Saturday, like the one you see here, they were not involved in that crash on Friday. Now, this is the 911 call received by Bedford County Dispatch.
Bedford 911. Well, Lehman's Farm, there's been a tractor accident. There's people trapped underneath the tractor. Okay, how many people are underneath of the tractor? People underneath the tractor. There's at least maybe 2, 3, 4 people injured. Maybe a fatality. I don't know. I'm hearing screams for help. Two people trapped at this time. Can you tell if the people that are underneath the tractor are still breathing? Are they still breathing? Hang on. I'm hearing someone. Hang on. They're breathing unconscious.
Now, if it seems like that caller was really able to stay calm, there's a good reason. His name is Roy Brown. He's an emergency dispatcher in Roanoke County and is also a DJ at K92 Radio. Now, Brown himself was on that wagon and was hurt in the crash. He was taken to the hospital and was soon released.
Some of you are sounding off tonight after a California mom of 3 posted a picture of her post-baby body asking, "What's your excuse?" Plus, at just 13, she lost her arm in a shark attack. Now, Bethany Hamilton brought her story of survival to LU. Started out in the Midwest bringing thunderstorms, tornadoes even. Now that storm system has come to Virginia. And we're keeping an eye on the situation here at home. This is a live look at Candler's Mountain from one of our ABC 13 tower cams, a wet one out there, as the storms are slowly moving out.
And here in the Weather Center, we continue to watch the tail end of these storms pushing across the south side of Virginia communities. 13 News at 5 starts right now.
Anytime, anywhere. Award-winning coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News.
And we want to get straight to the latest on the weather right now. Team coverage tonight at 5 on the storms. Sean Sublett is in the Weather Center. Lindsay DePassis is outside of our Lynchburg studio. Sally Delta is live in Lynchburg with more on the storm damage. But Sean, we want to go straight to you first. What is the very latest that you're seeing?
The best thing I could tell you, Danner, is for the evening. Lindsay DePassis is outside of our Lynchburg studio with a little recap on some of the photos and some of the damage reports that have come into the studio. Lindsay?
All right, Sean, as you mentioned, again, the damaging wind threat pretty much over for us. So what you've got down in your backyard or your neighborhood, that's pretty much all the damage that you're going to see from tonight's storms. We'll take a look at some of the photos that we did receive into the Weather Center. The first one comes to us from 29 right near the Lynchburg area. Donald Floyd sent this one in, and if you look closely, you can see that the large base of the tree there has been completely uprooted. The second one of another medium-sized down tree comes to us from Madison Heights. Zachary Taylor sent this photo into us. And the third and last photo we have for you is off of 221 in Bedford County. Our own Lisa Fenderson sent in this photo again of a tree covering the road there. So there were a lot of scenes like that all across the viewing area. If you want to send in any more photos, please feel free to send them to weather@WSET.com. We'll send it now to Sally Delta. She's live on 7th and Taylor Street in Lynchburg for more on the storm damage across the area. Sally.
Hey, Lindsay, yeah, when the rain started falling and the trees started falling, I was out here tracking them down, and thankfully it's eased up a lot now, but it certainly left a pretty big mess behind. Let me show you just one of them. Right now I'm at 7th and Taylor, and if you look pretty closely, you can see a car is under that tree, and the owner tells me she saw broken glass, doesn't know how much the damage actually is, but she definitely knows it's damaged. And the people along the street also lost power.
Heard of a lot of scenes just like that one across the area, as well as a lot of people in the dark this evening. Here's a look at the power outages that we're tracking through Appalachian Power. These are the latest numbers that I got right before the show started. Lynchburg at 12,227, Campbell County at over 10,000 people in the dark. Bedford County at over 10,200 in the dark, and I'm hearing a lot of people in Bedford City without power. Amherst County, 2,700. Roanoke and Roanoke County, those are some pretty big numbers. Roanoke was over 14,000. Roanoke County, over 16,000 people in the dark. Montgomery County, about 2,900. Franklin County, around 7,600. Henry County, 1,800, but those numbers I expect to go up as that storm moves through. And Pittsylvania County at 426 people in the dark. Also, the Central Virginia Electric Cooperative sent us a note saying that they have about 4,200 people in the dark in that area as well. Now we are going to the phones where Carly Griffith is on the line for you. And Carly, you've been out on 221 in Bedford County. What are you seeing there tonight?
Yeah, Dana. Well, just on our way from Lynchburg to Bedford, we passed through Forest, and there are several blocks of businesses without power, and that sort of ranged from the Forest Kroger down to Jefferson Forest High School. Then in between Forest and Bedford County, there was a tree down blocking the northbound lane of 221, pretty large tree. But as we left that scene, crews were already there cutting the tree up. Then when we got to Bedford, lots of businesses in the dark. As you said, there's about 10,200 customers in Bedford without power right now, according to AEP's website. In downtown Bedford, as we said, lots of power out. One business owner said that the power's been out since about 3 p.m. And of course, power outages, that mean stoplights are not working, so please use caution anytime you're traveling through any intersections. And also, we have gotten several reports of trees falling on homes, and we will have a full report of all the damage for you tonight at 11. Danner?
All right, Carly Griffin. In other news tonight, a Salem man has been charged in that bad accident yesterday on Interstate 581 in Roanoke. 2 truckers were killed. State police say 34-year-old Timothy Wellens was arrested overnight after he was discharged from Carilion Roanoke Memorial Hospital. He's charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter and DUI. David Tate is live in our Roanoke studio tonight. And Dave, we also know the name of the 2 people killed.
Danner, yeah, state police released that information earlier this morning. We know that dead at the scene yesterday was 54-year-old Kenneth Graham of Lexington, North Carolina, who was driving one of those trucks, as was 36-year-old Paul Golding of Salem. Now, several witnesses told state police that right before the crash, Wellens was driving erratically and lost control, hitting an adjacent truck in the northbound lane as they traveled together. That truck then crossed the median and hit the second semi in the southbound lane head on. Now, 2 more cars would plow into that wreck, which, as you can see in this incredible image, then burst into flames, giving off smoke that could be seen for miles. Now, coming up at 6, I'll tell you why state police were able to charge Wellens so quickly with DUI and how that charge could affect his current charges. We'll have that all coming up tonight at 6. Live in Roanoke, David Tate, ABC 13 News.
All right, thank you. Well, so many people get sick but don't want to miss work because they need the money. Well, now a new report looks at how big the payoff is for others if your office tells you to just stay home. Plus, a New York mother and her daughter hit by a car. The baby is trapped. Find out who came to her rescue. Well, a lot of people are in the dark right now, but storms didn't cause one outage earlier this morning in downtown Lynchburg. Find out what Appalachian Power is going to do about one tiny thing creating a big problem. Well, a Florida mom took the reins to protect her daughter from an alleged predator.
I thought it happened to other people, not right here in my home.
She says the key to doing it, her daughter's cell phone.
C13 News.
Tens of thousands are without power in our viewing area after those very strong storms moved through this afternoon. Ahead, the latest on the damage, the outages, and the cleanup, which in some spots is now already underway.
Lots to clean up for sure. We are staying on top of today's storm with team coverage tonight at 5:30.
Yeah, we want to go straight to Chief Meteorologist Sean Sublett. So, Sean, where are these storms now?
Best thing I can tell you, Lynn, is that it is just about all done. The tail end of these storms now going through parts of Charlotte and Halifax counties, but even the lightning strikes have now begun to shift farther off to the east. Certainly going to be a little bit of rain, some lighter to moderate rain through parts of Halifax County through the next 30 minutes or so. But the true severe weather threat has now shifted farther off to the east and south down in Carolina and farther eastward out toward Bugs Island Lake. So the only locations that still have a watch or a warning are east of our part of the state now. Down toward Mecklenburg County, they still have a severe thunderstorm warning until 6 o'clock for some very dangerous conditions there and across Bugs Island Lake. But we can already start to see the sky begin to clear out just off to the west. You see the clouds starting to thin out a fair bit going westward from the Blue Ridge Parkway. Some very impressive photos have come in over the last several hours. With a recap, let's go outside to meteorologist Lindsay DePasses. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, Sean, of course, much quieter out here this evening. So as you get outside, look at the damage that you maybe have outside your house, your neighborhood. Remember, that's all that you're going to see for tonight as the threat for damaging wind gusts has passed for our viewing area. Some of the photos, though, that we did see a large tree uprooted. If you look closely at the bottom there, or off 29 near the Lynchburg Airport from Donald Floyd, a large tree uprooted at the base. Another downed tree of medium size from Madison Heights from Zachary Taylor sent this photo into us. And the last photo comes to us from our own Lisa Fenderson off 221 in Bedford County, another tree kind of blocking the roadway out towards that way. So if you have any more photos that you can get to, if it's safe to do so and you want to send them in to us, feel free to send them to weather@WSET.com. Danner, Len.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Now we're going to go to Sally Delta, who's live in Lynchburg in those neighborhoods.
Yeah, Sally, you've seen a lot of the damage done out there pretty close up, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a pretty big mess throughout the city, Lynn, just from the debris all over the roads and trees down all over the place. Right now, I'm standing at 7th and Taylor, where a pretty massive tree is blocking the road both ways. But right now, I want to show you something I shot a little bit earlier today. This one is at Langhorne Lane. Check out this massive oak that fell across the street, blocking the road. This was around 3 o'clock, and I spoke to the owners who heard it all go down.
I heard it snap. It was just real loud bang. And I looked out the window and said the tree had fallen.
Well, I'm glad it fell away from my truck and her car because I gotta go to work tonight.
Lucky for them, but it's certainly a different story over here where a car is indeed under this tree. And they tell me the damage, they can't really tell right now because you can't really see the car, but they definitely saw some broken glass. And just to show you how massive the damage is on the other side, check out how big this tree is. I'm going to take you all the way over here to the roots. If Tom can pan over, this tree is big. And if we can just tilt down a little bit, see what's left of this power line. Now I imagine it's probably all turned off. I know the people around here don't have electricity right now, and I've heard that it may not come back until tomorrow, but we're not sure. But that's a lot of power lines, and that's kind of scary. So there's going to be a lot to clean up for probably a couple of days, Lynn and Danner, and it's going to be a lot of work.
Well, cats, and more cats. The Henry County SPCA is overflowing with the little guys. Why they say these cats need to go to some good homes now.
Plus, no, you have not logged into the wrong social media site. Facebook has hashtags now, too.
Okay, again, tens of thousands of people without power tonight. So we do have Todd Burns with Appalachian Power on the phone with us live right now. And Todd, a lot of people going out after the storm, kind of wandering around, but there are some downed power lines. So let's remind people a little bit about how dangerous those can be.
Well, it is extremely dangerous, and I would say steer very clear of any damage to lines or poles because those power lines can hide in the grass and you may not see them. So certainly steer clear of anything and report those outages.
Hey, so many of those down power lines out there. What are the priorities now for your crews that are heading out to work on this?
Well, our process is the very first thing we've got to do is assess the damage. We need to go to the sites and we need to see exactly what's been broken and how bad, and whether we need to simply put a line back up or whether we need to get in equipment and replace a broken pole. So we need to assess the damage and then prioritize. We'll be trying to get the largest numbers of customers back on first, and certainly any critical care facilities or anything like that we need to prioritize. But we'll try to get everybody back on as fast as possible and begin executing the plan.
Yeah, that seems to be the question that we're getting in the newsroom with calls is, when are the lights going to be back on? So, Todd, when are the lights going to be back on?
Well, there's simply no way to say with any accuracy at this point. We are early into this. This hit us, in the late afternoon. So we are going out. For example, just between the Roanoke and Lynchburg areas, we've got more than 660 different places where we have to go to get the power back on. So
plenty of work on tap, definitely, for your crews. Todd, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
And much more of our coverage on the weather today, and of course at WSET.com anytime.